Big D Entertainment, in association with Dipsy Doodle Productions, presents The Dave Holly Hour, brought to you by TJS Ceramic Studio, Serendipity Studio Gallery and Gifts, Chasers Food and Spirits, Excel Chiropractic, Quality Nails, Jesse Moffitt Entertainment, and the Sioux Falls Arts Council. The Dave Holly Hour features Sioux Empire arts and entertainment conversations. A true lover of arts, entertainment, good food, and fun times, including an occasional Jack Daniels. Okay, so a few Jack Daniels. Here he is, Dave Holly.
First-timers, long-timers, great to have you along. Today's conversations include getting nerdy with comic book creators Jon Runyan and Randy Faustino. Then we learn the story behind Collin Donley's new single, Train, as we touch on a tough subject. But first, let's pop the cork on this bubbly little show. Time to grab your favorite beverage, lift it high, and toast it to being Thursday, a.k.a. Weekend Eve.
Hey, the weekend isn't around the corner, it's here!
So long, hump day and your frumpy way. We say hello to Thursdays with opening nights. The weekend is near and we can see the bright lights. Yes, Thursday, you're so hearty, we can't wait for Friday, so a day early, we start the party. Whatever you're drinking and whatever you're drinking it out of might very well be determined by where and when you're listening. My choice, as per usual, a Jasper Newton. It's Jack Daniels, Diet Coke with a lime. For you, whether it's a cup of coffee, spot of tea, glass of milk, bottle of water, mug of beer, a cocktail, glass of wine, or flute of champagne, lift it high and toast to newlyweds. For me personally, that toast is to Casey and Cody Bullwig. They had rain on their wedding day to ensure good luck. Yeah, the irony, huh? Casey and I were desk mates in the mid-2010s. We would celebrate payday by going out for Chinese, including having Lucky Buddha beer. I ended up in the hospital once, not from that, but for some other reason. Then she brought me Chinese and a six-pack of Lucky Buddha. That's a great friend. So it was wonderful to toast to them at their wedding last Sunday. Cheers to you, Casey and Cody, and to the newlyweds beginning their journey together. That would be all newlyweds. Speaking of cheers, which just happens to rhyme with beers, say cheers with a beer or your favorite cocktail at Chasers, West 12th Street, Ellis Road. Make sure you grab some food while you're at it. Join me on Monday nights for Dave Holly Hour Trivia starting at 7. Honorable mention. What over the past week made Dave laugh, guffaw, chuckle, chortle, giggle, smile, or maybe even shed a tear of joy? It was a trifecta of entertainment. Last Thursday, we attended the taping of 2 more episodes of Late Night Boomin'. Friday night, Monstrous Little Theater produced the enjoyable Love and Information. And Saturday night, we took in Jazz Crawl. Simply no way to break up a 3-way tie. Later, we talk with singer-songwriter Collin Donley. In just a few minutes, we learn what it takes to publish a new comic book from Randy Faustino and Jon Runyan of Bamboo Panel Studios on the Dave Holly Hour. Take in the great works at Serendipity Studio and Gift Gallery in the Shriver Building. So many great works from regional artists. They offer so many ways for everyone to participate or interact with the studio as well as the artists. Check your calendar and make your plans to participate at Serendipity Studio. Visit their website, www.serendipitystudiosd.com. That again is serendipitystudiosd.com. You'll get more information. You can register for any of their activities. Serendipity Studio, located downtown Sioux Falls in the historic Shriver Building, 230 South Phillips Avenue on the 2nd floor.
Are you an artist? Need some funding to further your art? There's a great opportunity for you through a Sioux Falls Arts Council program. The Artist Microgrant program gives away several microgrants to local artists, no matter what art discipline you're in. Unlike more traditional grants, a microgrant is very easy to apply for. Go to artssiouxfalls.org If you haven't done so yet, create a listing on the Artist Directory, which is beneficial in its own way. Then go to the Artist Microgrants page and apply online. The process is simple. Find out more about the Sioux Falls Arts Council as well online at artssiouxfalls.org.
Check out the new ceramic studio in Sioux Falls, conveniently located off Kiwanis Avenue on 5th Street. TJS Ceramics inside Oscar's Mini Storage. We have thousands of classic vintage ceramic mold items and several new items too. TJS Ceramics offers classes, special open studio nights, and completed ready-to-purchase items. Bisque studio time or painting parties are available. Visit TJS Ceramics Studio in person today or email tjsceramics@gmail.com for more details.
For him, every day is a holly day. Here again, Dave Holly.
Welcome back, everybody. Oh, yes, it is so fun every time we get to chat and converse about Sioux Empire arts and entertainment. It truly is a pleasure. And one of my favorite things, always when we have new guests. From Bamboo Studio, we have Jon Runyan and Randy Faustino. Welcome to the Dipsy Doodle Production Studio, fellas.
And thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Yeah, great to have you two. And let's, first of all, is it Bamboo Studio or Studios?
So, very, very close there. Bamboo Panel Studios. Is
Bamboo Panel?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Studios.
Are we talking like old paneling from the 60s and 70s? That was
Well,
made to
you
look like
know,
I'm not
bamboo?
mad
Or
about that.
Yeah, actually, that kind of adds to the chic of the name. So actually, that was John's. Really, the bamboo panels was John's brilliant idea, because we were thinking about it, and then he's like, "Well, comic books have their panels, their storyboards." I'm like, "That fits." And
panels.
then our third co-founder, who's not here with us, she is very big on sustainability, so she loved the whole idea of having bamboo paneling, so it just, and I just liked it for the bamboo part.
Yeah.
So that's
it
how
all ties in.
Yep.
That's great. That's right, because you guys like comics.
That's right.
Yes, we
in
do.
fact, you now have a Kickstarter underway for a project of yours, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Who wants to address the Kickstarter first?
Ooh, John has been the
leading
the driving
Yes.
the driving force.
he has been the driving force. He's been the orchestrator. Orchestrator.
So this interview is occurring during the first week of our Kickstarter, and so it's funny because we've done other interviews before and right at launch, and now here we are. And I've got to say that this is our first time going at this, right? So anyone that's taken on their first Kickstarter is going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's that pressure of, okay, little bird, you're setting sail now. How are we doing? So honestly, for me, we are at this point 26% funded.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It actually sends emails,
Yeah,
which is awesome, and also like,
I know. It's like that whole saying of a watched pot never boils.
Yes.
I'm just like checking my email, checking my email. I'm like, no, let's not do that.
However, it also has been really fun to see kind of who's jumped in for backers, and also some of the correspondence that we've gotten on the side, so people can message you through Kickstarter and ask questions about the campaign. So ultimately, I'm glad we did it. I even if we did not get funded, it's still a really good experience, and the fact that we're just really taking the bull by the horns and getting out there and trying, to me is super cool, because I never saw myself at this point where we have a project. I'm actually going to be weaving the file together tonight to send off to the printer.
Oh, wow.
And that's
you are
crazy.
that far.
Yeah, we are that far.
Yeah.
Art is paid for, coloring's paid for, writing's done.
There was a lot of upfront investment by the co-founders, so by John, Ashley, and myself, because one of the things that we wanted to make sure when we started this project was we wanted it to be something that everyone had fun doing.
Yes.
Because it's reflected in the work, right? The quality of so I'm the writer, and my goal was to make sure I came up with a decent enough story that the artist would enjoy illustrating it. And I know you haven't seen her artwork yet, but she is a superstar.
She's outstanding.
Oh, I know on one of our previous shows, actually, we had shown a copy of her artwork to the host, and he said, "Who's your artist?" Because she looks like one of the big Marvel DC studio, like the caliber of her art and the sensitivity that she shows with the art that she draws, because she shows a lot of love to the different body types, the different backgrounds. And so because the three of us are really champions of diversity in different ways, we really like that. And each of our visions, I feel, complements the others, which is really what Bamboo Panel Studios is about. And so it brought us to this place. And so that's why we're like, yep, we got a book for you. Come check us out.
Yeah.
So what is the book?
Oh, so, I don't know, because John is technically called Lion Share in our group. So if I overshare too much, I might get in trouble. But the title, we can go with that.
Yeah, we can
The
go with that.
title of our first book is called Cosmotrope. And so I have a background in science. I have a PhD in physiology, so I have all the training.
Oh, wow.
I am an ultimate nerd.
You, I believe you just qualified yourself with a PhD as the smartest person that's ever been on this show.
Well, I don't know about that. I have a PhD. I know many PhDs who don't qualify as that, but that's a different show.
We'll do that
No,
sometime.
so in my other life, in my daytime role and other role, I'm Dr. Faustino, and I have a background in cardiac medicine. And so one of the things that I'm really passionate about is STEM accessibility, but then also the whole idea of, a diverse pool of talent, right? So that's my day job. And now I guess our superhero identities, if we're going to go with that analogy,
right.
we're comic book creators, we're each kind of pushing our own things.
Right.
And so that's kind of how it all started. So the title, Cosmotrope, is from chemistry. And the whole idea is cosmotropes are these, basically they're kind of a chemical compound that brings stability to an aqueous or a water-based system. And so the reason why I even thought of that is because when I was in grad school, I was working with these things called chaotropes, which are the opposite. It introduces chaos, which incidentally hints for another upcoming title. But
Oh, gosh, could it?
hint. But Cosmotrope, the whole idea of it is that, all these different things bringing order to a system. And I'm like, you know what? That's kind of how I envision real diversity, where instead we're not focused on the more superficial things like age or body type or religion or sexuality and any of that kind of stuff. Instead, how about a mutual respect for each other, an openness, a curiosity for who that person is, a respect for their merits and their skills? Because when you focus on that, and this is my experience, building teams on the science side, when you focus on that, you get a diverse team. And then all the things that are different become a very cool thing about them. It's like, oh, I didn't know you were that, or oh, I didn't know that was your background. That's really cool. What kind of food is that? And it becomes. I remember the best compliment I ever received when I was running my own lab was, "Did you set out to become a diverse lab?" I'm like, no. We just set out to have a great bunch of people together working towards solving a common problem, and that's how And I'm like, this is really how we need to approach this. So
Well, as soon as you walked in the door, that was the moment we met just a few minutes ago coming in here.
Yep.
And it's like, I like this guy already.
Oh,
And now when you were just talking about that and, inclusivity, diversity, and everything else coming about, I have the feeling that you're a person I would really admire because you sound like you actually do true brainstorming.
I
Not-
hope so.
Yeah, because there's so many people anymore. You try to brainstorm, and the first thing they do is shoot things down. And it's like, that's not part of the brainstorming process. You got to get it all out there and then whittle down after that.
Yeah. And that's exactly, I think my career trajectory really exemplifies that because I'm a full nerd, like full disclosure. I have been a nerd since I was 6 years old, first chemistry set, first microscope set.
Yes.
And I love comic books and video games and manga and anime. And then on the side, I'm also a physical fitness nerd too. So I've done things like CrossFit and gymnastics and martial arts, so I've done all of that stuff. But the brainstorming aspect, that's where you really like, well, we don't know if it's going to work or not, so let's just try it. Then we'll find out. And I think that's really what fed into my whole, I was a scientist. I had this opportunity to become an entrepreneur, and I've kind of combined all those things with my baseline nerdiness. So now I have all these businesses that kind of, promote each of those different things that I do.
Did you see yourself as a writer prior to this?
I love to write. And so that's why, to me, it's mostly been science writing, right? So I've written scientific manuscripts. I've written book chapters for textbooks. But the creativity side of it, like stories, I did that when I was much younger, but I never really kind of leaned into it until we had this opportunity to create this comic book. And then I'm like, oh, because I always have that idea, I'm going to write a novel, and then I start to have this really good story. And then I'm like, I get busy with science and I can't do it. And then I'm like, well, the short story form is really good, but I can't draw. But then I'm like, this is an age of where we can find some people who can,
That's true.
And so that's how we became a team. And that's why without these guys, without Ashley, without Jon, there's no way this book would have manifested.
So how did the three bamboos get together?
Oh, I'll let you lead on this one.
So I did a couple of years at the local comic book store, Rainbow Comics, and Randy was a customer there. And so Randy and I ended up grabbing breakfast, and after a couple of times we did that, we would just talk about life. And one of those conversations, it just kind of came up as a joke or a dare, like what if we put this kind of dialogue into a comic book, and then we got to talking. And then we talked some more, and then
he dared me. I dare you to write,
yeah,
because I like to write. I'm like,
because you found Ashley on Instagram,
yeah, I found her
brought
after
her
that.
to my attention, yeah. And I remember this. We didn't talk about this in any of the other interviews. This is Dave Holly exclusive right here.
Yes.
But he found this profile, and we were like, in Messenger, like, oh, should we message her? And I said, Randy, the time is now. Have no fear and go for it, or something like that, like something really me.
Yeah, very,
and you
very
were just
Jon.
like, okay. And then he did it, and she actually wrote back. Typically, when you message someone that you're not connected with, it goes into what's called a request instead of a normal message.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, we lucked out.
Because
She actually saw it. Yeah. So
and he
took the plunge. He took the plunge.
I tend to do that very often. Just FYI, because I'm like, you don't know until you try it, and if you fail, then so be it. But now you know.
So Randy's the writer. Yeah. Ashley is the artist.
Yes.
What's your spot in this, Jon?
Yeah. What exactly would you say you do here? It's really funny because when you look at the different parts of the comic book, there's a role called the letterer, and I was like, I want to try that. And so letterer is basically I take what's going on with Randy's script and Ashley's art, and I interpret where to place the comic book bubbles or dialogue boxes, and craft it in a way that's meaningful for both parties. And so this is Is this an example?
Okay. This is an example.
Yeah, so this is an example. So in the studio here, we have a copy of our Ash Can, which is a preview issue. And so this is the first thing that we published. Shout out to Minuteman Press for that. So
yes,
they're
on my. They just did my letterheads and a few other projects for me. Oh, I like this.
But as you see, like the dialogue and stuff that's going on, all of that, the colored bubbles is something that we wanted to embrace doing. I have learned so much by taking this on. So that was one of my first times lettering, and this comic book will show even more progress past that. Which I'm really excited to share.
And do you get to use word processor for this?
So I actually do everything in Photoshop.
Okay? Yeah. But it's amazing. I always love that style of the font that gets used in comics and cartoons. It's always just got this really neatness to it. And then you try to duplicate it at home and go, oh shit, that didn't work.
So it's so crazy how much goes into lettering, because it's the font, it's the bubble placement, it's the bubble style. You can make it a plain white bubble, you can color it, you can color the font. I mean, the sky's the limit. And lettering doesn't stop there. Think about those sound effects too, like bang or phones ringing or stuff like that.
It was the old Batman from the 60s,
right?
Bam.
So it was, so that's kind of my role with it. And then on top of that, I'm just really helping architect the whole project. And like I said, just kind of getting it onward to the printer.
Okay, boy, I'm excited about it already. Yeah. I will admit I'm not a huge comic book reader. Yeah. But when something comes along that is local, I have to have it. And so I'm looking forward to that. Just like, that picture up there, the caricature, that's from Hector Carrillo.
Today.
And, and his book about Joe Foss.
Yes.
Wow.
That was beautifully done.
Incredible.
So talented.
All right. So how does it take form then, your main part of this book?
Oh boy.
And do we have like alternate egos like you would have, a Peter Parker and Spider-Man and so forth?
So
sure,
within
sure.
the story, there's a little bit of that.
Okay.
Because the premise of the story, without giving too much away, so it takes place in a fictitious town in Oregon, city, however we want to say this in Oregon, Pacific Northwest.
There we
Pacific
go.
Northwest. And so it is a nice little town, and so we actually have kind of an ongoing series on our Instagram feed where we call it Slices of Life, where it basically shows you, this is just a day in the life of some citizens in that city or town. But there's always these supernatural things. So there's that paranormal twist to it. And so a part of it is, sometimes maybe these secrets are out in the open, but maybe they're not. And so one of the things that's going to be a central theme of this story is that there is a challenge that this town faces. And in order for it to be adequately dealt with, some of these secrets are going to have to come out. And some of these people are going to actually discover, hey, you know what? Not only are these secrets necessary for our survival and for saving the people and the places that we love, but it actually makes us better letting other people know what they are. And so that's kind of how we're tackling the idea of diversity without focusing necessarily on, more superficial thing. I know the audience can't see this, but Dave, growing up being like, I tell this all the time because Crayola now has a line of colors, right, for colors of the world. And I think I'm like burnt almond or cyan or something, whatever that color is. Anyways, it's great. I love that. Like I gave it to my godson.
What is the nationality then?
So Canadian, if I'm going to be really honest. I was born and raised in Canada, but my parents were both immigrants from the Philippines.
Okay.
And so they came to Canada separately from each other. They moved to Canada in the late 60s. And so if you can imagine, I was born in the disco era. So I grew up with all that stuff. But on the one hand, you can imagine what in the 70s, how people viewed, we didn't really have a name for diversity. It wasn't a thing then, right? It was just people who look different and then whatever names were associated with it. But at the same time, where I lived, we had kids from all over the place. So I never viewed diversity as a thing. It was more like, oh yeah, I know.
It was just common.
Yeah, my classmate Lena, she's from Italy, Anton, he's from Jamaica, and that's just how we knew each other and we played around. So now that people are making it's a big issue, I'm thinking this is something that kids just normally accept.
Right.
Isn't that the fundamental principle
It's
of
the
how we
parents
should
that
do it
ruin
now?
all that.
Yeah. And so, and the reason why I speak to this is like, it's just been my experience. All these well-meaning diversity initiatives focus on the wrong thing. So it's like well-intentioned, but garbage execution. And I say this all the time. And I've spoken to a lot of my friends who are also from outside the US, because we're here for whatever reason, work usually. And I say, so how many of these like diversity initiatives, especially the really public ones that everyone's really pushing, how many of them really work for you guys? They're like, oh, none of them. None of them. They're focusing on the wrong things. And that's a problem which I've tried to explain to people, because if you tell me, oh, you are this and this, it makes me think, did you hire me because I'm talented, or did you hire me because you're checking off a box?
Right.
And then
Hitting
not
the
so
quota.
so there's the one hand, and and for even the kids who are, they have a good sense of self and their self-esteem is really high, it leads them to think, well, I guess it doesn't matter what I do. I can be skilled or unskilled, they'll just pick me, or they're going to question themselves. Oh, wait, did they pick me because I'm talented, because I'm smart, because I'm good? And that's not the way you want to enter into something. You want to be like, yeah, they picked me because they like my ideas on blah, right?
Yeah. You don't want to be labeled.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, as a scientist, I love labeling everything. Everything's got to be categorized. But in order to understand it better, not to shove it into a box, right? So,
not to segregate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
John, what got you interested in comic books to begin with?
Oh, goodness. That's a great question.
I get in one per interview, so run with it.
All right. So with comic books, I got to blame that original X-Men cartoon on Fox Kids back in the 90s.
Ooh.
And this started back in, 94.
It would have been, 94.
Yeah. And I actually started physically collecting comics when I lived in Japan. So my dad was in the Air Force. And so we moved to Japan from 95 to 2000. They had one, the spinny racks. They had one spinny rack for the whole base. So I didn't even have a sense of when comics came out normally, but I went to the little store every other day. Like, I got to get my X-Men and everything. And that's what got me collecting. Honestly, I really like it for the characters. I read for the story. And now I just love it for the community.
What is the actual length of a comic book? What's typical?
Oh,
Per book or per story? I guess it depends what you're referring to. Because
Each issue that comes out.
oh,
If
sure.
it comes out
Oh,
in-
gotcha. Yeah. So on average, publications will average between, I want to say 28 and 32 pages with some advertisements in there.
Mhm.
You'll see different offerings though. When you stray away from DC and Marvel, then all bets are off. Shapes and sizes
Well,
and everything.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
they set the standard
Yeah.
typically.
Advertising. So let's see. You can get a fishing set with 128 pieces.
Yep.
Yeah. I loved those when I was a kid. You know,
yeah,
Or
yeah.
the X-ray specs.
Oh yes,
I remember
those were
those.
classic as
The
well.
X-ray specs, sea monkeys.
Yeah, sea monkeys. Yeah, see the X-ray specs. That was one of those that, I mean, you knew it was probably fake, but you had this little bit of you that wanted to say it was real, like professional wrestling, and then your parents wouldn't let you order them. You can't have those.
Yep.
Although the
So-
nature of the ads have changed now.
Yeah.
They're like,
Now it's like
know,
Snickers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or games.
Or other comics.
Oh yeah,
that are
Yeah,
other
yeah.
comics.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cross promote and so forth. When did you start putting together comic books then?
So that's a really good question. So the first project I think I ever put together that was technically a comic book was the wedding program. So when I got married 2 years ago already
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
that was a comic book and it had a few variations. So it was the same inside but different covers. And so that was my first go at it. And that was also locally printed in town here with
Mhm.
Preferred Printing. And so that was probably my first go at it. I had a blast. And so when we got to talking about this, I was like, Randy, you're talking my language here. So yeah, this one's been a lot of fun.
All right, so a nerd since age 6.
Mm-hmm.
How did it progress up to adulthood?
It's still progressing. I mean, it's just, and here's the thing I wanna let people know: everyone is a nerd, whether you want to admit it or not. There's
True.
always something.
I've never thought of it that way, but as you say it, yeah.
There's always something that you're passionate about, that you know something about that nobody else does. I mean, even my athletic jock friends, I tease them about being nerds too, because I'm like, no one can list all the stats you list. That is a nerd skill.
Very true. Yeah.
You know?
Baseball especially.
No one knows how to build their bodies the same way. No one understands the
Yeah.
ratio of, whatever nutrients you need to get this much muscle gain. You're nerds. You're nerds. And so that's why, I think it's far from being an insult. It is just such a fun thing to be, because I was one of those kids who loved dinosaurs. I'm like, I'm going to read everything about dinosaurs. And that's really one of the first things that started it for me on the science side. Then on the, I guess the creative side, I love Greek mythology, like Greek mythology, Norse mythology, all those.
Right.
So I read all those stories when I was a kid, and I loved seeing the different ways different cultures interpreted things, like, why does the sun happen? Why does the moon happen? So all the stories from like Japan or the Norse gods or any of that kind of stuff. And I loved it because the science side was like, I understand why. But then the non-science is like, this is how people explained it in all these different ways and, the things they focused on. And so those two things were pretty much what helped me progress through my nerdness, Science was always my thing. Like I was in science fairs and doing science fairs and competing at science fairs, doing research on whatever. And in fact, that's my other business right now, where I actually help high school students conduct these really high-level research projects that they go to compete at national and international competitions. In fact,
Wow.
tomorrow I'm leaving for Albuquerque because one of my students qualified for nationals and is representing South Dakota.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations go to her though, because her
Right.
her work is amazing. She's only she just finished her junior year, and so she is competing on the national stage, representing South Dakota for the second time in a row. Like the program, so the students in the program last year was the first time South Dakota was represented at this national competition in over a decade. And so, okay, well, first of all, kids are doing something really good.
exactly.
And I'm still getting to exercise my nerdiness on that side.
Yeah.
Right.
And helping kids get a step up too.
Yeah, these kids are amazing. Honestly, I should have some of them on this show so you can ask them about their stuff. It's very cool. Like these kids are amazing. They come to us not really knowing if they can do it, but then my co-founder and I in that business, we see what they're capable of, and we're like, trust the process, you'll be fine. And then a year later, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. So,
all right. So in a few, we'll give it like 6 months, a year or so, and you guys come back, and you've got this thing going smoothly and so forth. And I asked the question, so what's your favorite comic book?
Oh, well, it's going to be ours.
It's going to be your own,
Obviously.
right? But
Obviously.
as you were really starting to get into comic books, what one did you go for? What did you have to have?
Well, okay, this is going to be funny because it actually was X-Men around the 90s. That's the first title I started collecting. So that, is there any one specific one? That's a tough one. I have to think about that one. Because, oh man, do we count Transformers? I mean, it wasn't a comic book, but it was the first made series. I think that was the first series. I was 12 years old, and I love Transformers. So I think that was probably what got me into anime, manga, comic books proper. I think that would have been, or maybe even, no, see, this is hard, man.
Yeah. Well,
maybe Justice League, Super Friends.
Decepticons was an answer at the trivia that I hosted last night.
Oh, really? Yes.
All right, Mr. Runyan, how about you?
Ooh, well, X-Men is definitely a safe bet for me. If you were to ask me about comics holistically, since I've been reading up until now, shout out to Thunderbolts, actually, from the 90s. There's something about that team of villains masquerading as heroes that was just a true delight to follow, and it's just a good read from start to finish.
What do you like now? I mean, obviously these continue on, but what are some of the new things that are coming out that trip the trigger?
So for me, I've been investing a lot into the Marvel horror titles. So Ghost Rider, Morbius, Werewolf by Night, and they actually had offerings from the 70s and 80s, and even maybe a little earlier in the 60s, different series. So it's been really fun to collect all those, and I've been collecting both old and new, so it's actually been really spendy. I've slowed way down, and I have a lot of reading ahead of me too, but that's all in preparation. I want to get my show going, Comics by Night, to talk about those comics and build a community.
Yeah, because you're a fellow podcaster as well. Yeah, tell people about that.
Yeah, so 2 items that I'm tackling right now. First, a comic book look has been going since 2011. Which is very humbling. And this is the days of tons of editing and recording on digital camcorders and then bouncing it down on your computer, uploading it to YouTube. It was like hours and hours of editing. We've switched to a live format now with StreamYard, so thank you for technology. But Tom and I have really been delighted over the years. We've had several contributors join the team, which has been great, and a lot of awesome guests. So a comic book look for sure. You can catch us on the Facebooks or YouTubes. And then Comics by Night is something I started it, and then we got really busy with all of this, and so I put the brakes on that for right now because I wanted to recharge on that. But when I get going with that again, it's going to be ferocious.
Ferocious, he says. Wow. Right. And how about for you, Randy? You've got your other businesses.
Yes.
So this is like the third part of a trifecta, or is this only 3 out of like 10 or something?
No. This is the third. I like there's a limit. I mean, I'm like, okay, I can split my energy several ways, but so obviously Bamboo Panel Studios is kind of our creative, the creative outlet for me, where we get to explore stories and issues and all that other fun stuff in a paranormal or supernatural setting. But that dovetails with my other business, so it's a STEM mentoring business where it's what I described, So I have a colleague, Dr. Claudia Preston, and she is my educational director, and she's got a wonderful way of like engaging with students. I mean, she's just very warm and welcoming and intelligent, and the kids can, they really, really pick up on that. And so her and I started this program. We call it the STAR program. And originally we started because of the pandemic. Like the very first, before it even existed as what it is now. We were doing that because of the pandemic, because at the time I was running my own research lab. Claudia was my staff scientist. So basically my right hand, the one who gets things done. And we started it there because the pandemic shut down every lab in the nation. And so I was really disappointed because at the time I was also directing the high school research scholar program too. And we had these really talented kids and they couldn't do anything. So I turned to Claudia and said, well, surely we can do something because we're good at this, and that's kind of started the process. And then formally, when I left my previous job to start my businesses, we formalized it and we called it the STAR program, which stood for Science, Telementoring, and Research. And so that is the kind of the flagship program of that second business. And so those two, I said they dovetail, and they dovetail because the science that the kids do, we turn it into a comic book. So to improve STEM
do they get any residuals?
I don't know if they asked for that. So
probably can't if they're high school. So yeah, you're safe.
Yeah, no, they love the idea of their work being turned immortalized in comic book form. They all love it.
Yeah.
So those two really work together. And then I have a third business too, but that is more client based, and I help young and emerging scientists write federal funding applications.
Like grant writing, or is it a little different?
No, grant writing, grant strategies.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a little bit more than writing at this point because, usually what some people ask for, can you just look over my stuff and just make sure it sounds good? But my clients have been asking me to get more involved with, does the logic of this flow? Does this sound good? And right now, I know I made a promise to one of my clients. I said, when I first met her, I said, I'm going to get you $10 million. And so she told me today, well, if the latest one gets funded, we're up to 8.7. I'm like, I told you I would do it.
My goodness.
So I will say, though, I have to say, so that has actually had benefits for what we do in Bamboo Panel Studios because Jon has affectionately come up with a nickname for me in the group. He calls me the Money Badger because I aggressively pursue funding opportunities. Yep. And so we, shout out to the Sioux Falls Arts Council because I applied to their artist microgrant. And,
you got one of those?
Yes,
yeah.
I did.
Those are great, aren't they?
Yes, it is so awesome. And they're helping support the completion of the story. And so, definitely people check that out because especially if you're undiscovered and novel, it's a really good way to get, some support.
Also, the easiest grant you will ever apply for.
I don't know. They're all tough, man, because in my mind, I'm like, I'm not saying enough. I'm saying too much. And then recently, another honor that we were fortunate to have is I applied for this prestigious DeGroote Foundation Award. And so I was named a finalist. So Bamboo Panel Studios is a finalist for that one as well. And so
good for you guys.
It was interesting because I had no idea how big this grant was. And so I'm like, I just found this out. And I told these guys because we all came together to submit the package. And then when I'm reading about who won, so I was named a finalist, which I thought that was great. And I'm looking at all the other finalists. Oh, international journalist who's published memoirs. And this other one who has published poetry that's impacted you. I'm like, I'm just like a comic book nerd here on this side of the world. I'm like, I'm people from Berlin, from wherever. And I'm like, okay, I'm just glad to be named a finalist, So that was something very recent. And so that the list of, so there's 3 levels. There's the grant award winners, like who get the big money, then the writers of note who get essentially second place, and then the finalists who made it past the cut to get into the group. So for a first time anything, I don't think it's too bad. I didn't even expect to get that far, to be honest. I was like, I'm just glad to have the experience. So
fantastic.
Yeah. So we're Bamboo Panel Studios is getting a few accolades, a few awards. So hopefully keep that momentum
Besides
going.
the comic books, what other things are we involved with when it comes to Bamboo Studios? Bamboo Panel Studios.
So we alluded to earlier, we all have like separate lanes that we like to stay in. And so for myself, I'm really passionate about community engagement. And one of the things I'm pleased to report is that we actually are going to help bring back the comic book style program for SuperCon. So we'll be designing a 24-page document. And it's exciting. And I don't know about you, with Randy, but we were at the board meeting with SuperCon, and I personally was nervous because I'm like, I know everyone in the room, but I've never presented like a
because
contract.
you've done a lot for it.
Right. You know, and so I'm like, is this okay? Everyone in there, they love the idea. So we're bringing it back. We're really excited. This project is really special because we have a couple of short stories that'll be in our portion of the program. And one of them we've already started on. We're bringing a local cosplayer in that was referred to us, and we're going to write and format his story, write and illustrate it in a comic book style to talk about his cosplay journey. And so that's really cool. And so our goal is we want to jam pack as much 605 greatness to celebrate our community in this publication. So
I like what you guys are doing. I do. All right. The final question, or sometimes it becomes questions, depending upon how you answer question number 1, determines whether question number 2 needs to be asked. But I'm going to put a caveat on this. First-time guests always get the same questions, and you get it, but when you are not part of the arts and entertainment scene, what do you like to be entertained by, and you can't say comics?
I love to cook. And so cooking for friends, family is actually a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
And
What's the go-to?
Ooh. I will choose dessert.
Oh.
I will cook desserts. But the problem with that is I can't cook it on my own. I have to share. Like one time I'm going to make some creme brulees. And so I made a ton, and I'm like, well, I can't eat all this. So my friends love it because they're like, oh, you know. So that you know, I think I enjoy doing that. So that's, I guess, if that's kind of entertaining, that's how I get entertained. But I'm a movie buff.
Okay.
Otherwise, if we're talking more normal things,
yeah,
you know.
And then what about other hobbies then besides cooking?
So for the longest time, I kind of mentioned it earlier, avid martial artist. I was a nerd for martial arts. So I got
what degree?
A black belt.
You are?
In one martial art. And then I have close to black in another one. But at that time, it was a choice of defend my thesis for my PhD or get my belt. I'm like, I already have one. I think I'll do the other.
Right.
You know. But I kind of like all that physical movement stuff. So I've done gymnastics, I've done yoga, I've done CrossFit, I've done all that other fun stuff. So I'm getting to the point where my body maybe can't handle such impact. So I'm, slowing down a little bit on that.
All right. Jon, tell us, when you're not part of the arts and entertainment scene, what do you like to be involved in or entertained by?
Definitely love my fair share of tuning into just, streaming shows. But, on the local side, is the question asking when I'm not doing like Bamboo Panel Studios or my podcast, basically?
Yeah, okay. Then what do you like to go to?
I do want to lift up one thing, two things really. First, there was the art event at the Washington Pavilion that was outstanding. It's
Artist Alley.
Artist Alley, and it was like SuperCon, but all artists. And that was, I think, my first time like going there and immersing myself in it. Dave, I had such a blast, and I met so many cool people, and my desk at work has pieces from all these cool people that I met. Like, it's the most colorful desk in the world, and I'm here for it. So just shout out to everyone that's a part of that, because we know what it takes to throw an event, and to do it well like that. I mean, the attendance was through the roof. I mean, promotion was great and everything. I was so happy for that, and that was I would love to make that a normal thing to go to.
Very cool,
because it's so special. But the other thing I wanted to lift up is the Curious Music Collective. I really love this group.
Yeah.
Oh man, I went to that Halloween show last year. I had them on Comics by Night for an interview, and then I went to the show and I was like, I love this. I want to work with you guys, and so for Sioux Falls, there's just a lot of cool stuff going on in our community.
Yeah.
And for the listeners, definitely, put your ear to the ground, ask questions, get involved. And that's, you just meet all these cool people, and there's so many special people in our community that are doing really cool things.
So many talented young individuals.
Incredible,
too.
isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How about other hobbies then?
So other hobbies outside of that, I don't know. I think
it's hard to think of it when you put on the spot.
Yeah.
What do I like to do? Can I talk about what I like to do?
Yeah. Honestly, past that, I'm I'd like to say I'm boring. I do a lot, but it's a lot of.
He's not boring.
Yeah.
No.
I think that one of the main things that I'm passionate about, which we are overdue for, is just the old cup of coffee.
Yeah. That we are.
But I love catching up with people. I love hearing the stories. I love hearing how people are doing. And so I don't know. I just love hanging out.
Don't let him downplay. John is an amazing communicator, and he's so he hasn't really been bragging about what he can do, but for events like getting events together, bringing people together, I mean, he's so good at that. He's just natural. I am like Ashley, our artist. Ashley and I, we're just like the creatives in the corner huddling. Give us a little bit of sunlight, we'll be fine.
All right. Thank you both so much. But before we let you go, I should say, one more time, where are we going to find this? Because it goes to print now.
Ooh, yeah. So the Kickstarter is running right now. So for listeners that are tuning in that maybe don't live in the immediate area, definitely check that out as an option to purchase online. And there is a Kickstarter exclusive cover.
Ooh.
So that is very well done. Ashley is responsible for that masterpiece. But locally, we are looking at doing a release party at Rose and Eugene's on May 28th, Tuesday at 6 p.m. And we are very excited about that. We will have the books in hand by then. I'm saying that very carefully because I'm going to be mailing off the proof tonight, and then we're going to get,
You want to knock on wood?
Mail time. Let's go, USPS. Past that, Rose and Eugene's is excited to help carry our book. And then Last Stop CD Shop also said they would be open to it as well. So we're really excited. In addition to that, Randy over here has definitely been really great at networking with comic shops throughout our region.
Okay.
And so Winnipeg is on deck.
Yep.
We have shops in Minnesota that are on deck. We have shops in Omaha and Lincoln that are on deck, and Wichita, Kansas.
Ooh.
So it's kind of this, So we're really
Well
going
done.
for
Yeah.
we're not saying that we're Marvel Comics. We're open to facilitating the VIP lounge in the future.
Oh, there we go. All right. From Bamboo Panel Studios, Randy Faustino. How did I do on that?
Amazing.
Okay. I wanted to give it
I needed to
big-
be introduced like that for my dissertation.
We can do that sometime. And Jon Runyan. All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave.
And we'll be back with more of the Dave Holly Hour in just a moment.
Comedy magician and hypnotist Jesse Moffat's right. He can't play the piano, but he can sure entertain crowds with his amazing magic and clever quips. His shows always make the participants the stars, especially when they've fallen asleep on stage. They've been hypnotized. Are you the party planner in your group? Then you owe it to your group to make the event magical, even if it puts you to sleep. Here's how.
For booking information, go to Jesse Moffat Entertainment on Facebook. That's JESSEMOFFITT. Or call 605-929-0964.
Check out the new ceramic studio in Sioux Falls, conveniently located off Kiwanis Avenue on 5th Street. TJS Ceramics, inside Oscar's Mini Storage. Bisque, studio time, painting parties, and finished items are available. Visit TJS Ceramic Studio in Sioux Falls today.
Welcome back, everyone. Yes, I do always say it's always a pleasure to talk Sioux Empire Arts and Entertainment, and I like having new guests. I also like having return guests. If I don't sound as upbeat as I normally would right now, it's because we're going to be touching a pretty deep subject today, folks. Collin Donley has returned to the show. He has a new single out called Train, and I'm just going to let you take the forefront here, Collin, and tell us what Train is all about and what prompted this.
Sure. Well, that's a pretty deep story. But so the song itself, the song is about someone that I knew. I didn't know him well. I sat next to him maybe in high school a bit. But I'm going to try to not make this a super long, drawn out yarn. But at any rate, when I had graduated school, he did take his own life. And the way it kind of happened was just really, really intense, and it really affected a lot of people. It affected me just because, And the story just haunted me for years. It's been 21 years ago that Cody passed. But at any rate, that you're writing songs for a new album, and it's been like years. I had started on, and I kind of had a chorus, and I played it, and Ashley, my wife, was just in the house, and she goes, "What is that?" So I told her the story, and she said, "You need to finish that." I said, "I don't think I can. The only way you could is if this would have to be a really good song, and then I don't know how you'd tell a story like this." So at any rate, I shelved it. I mean, I scrapped it at times, but last fall maybe it came together in the space of 20 minutes, just poured out. And then it was like when it was done, when I wrote the last word, because I'm a pencil and paper guy, wear the eraser out. It was like all the hair stood up on my neck, and it was just this thunderous, "That's done." And so I was like, oh, and I went to bed, and I couldn't sleep because all I heard after that was, "You're not done." And so I didn't sleep for probably 3 or 4 days. It's just, "You're not done. You're not done." And so I reached out to Mark Dahm. We're in the middle of an album cycle and all of that. And I said, "Hey, I've got this song." And, Ashley suggested you ought to do an acoustic version. Let's get it knocked out. So literally we just jumped into the studio and did it, like maybe 6 days after it had been written, just wham. And, so got it done, and I figured, okay, now we're done, right? And it was like, "You're not done."
The voice inside kept bugging you.
Yes, I don't know what people's beliefs are, but his family I knew of, but I didn't know them, and I was feeling really strongly that I needed to seek them out. So I did some research and stuff, and I remember his sister. She was a couple years younger than I am, and I reached out to her, sent her a message, and then it was like radio silence for 3 weeks, almost a month of just, she hadn't seen the message or whatever. And then I was in the middle of band practice, and I get a message, and all it said, I had written I talked it over with Ashley. I kind of made sure it was succinct. It was heartfelt. It was kind of a long message that I had written to her, but all she sent back was, "Send me the track." And I was sweating bullets. I was really nervous. I felt strongly I need to send it to him, but I was also really afraid because I figured it could hurt their feelings. The song is really dark. It's brutal. It's to the point.
But it's honest.
And I really tried to just let them know this isn't me trying to insert myself in the story. It's just from a perspective of, the people that love someone that's passed like that. So, she sent me a message after she got it, just quick. And then she said, "I hadn't cried like that in how many years?" And just, she seemed to be, it must have unlocked a lot of things for their family, but at the same time, she seemed pretty happy, which made me happy. And then over the course of that week, she sent it out to others, the friends, family, you name it. And it was really, it was really intense. I take a lot of responsibility in doing right by all the people that are involved with the family and all of that. And then just the topic just in general. So I don't take that lightly. It wasn't a song that was written to glorify anything or to better, myself or anyone. It was more so, I feel like the song kind of came into being, and I was just happy. It got to the people. To me, the circle's closed, but we released the song here on April 13th. And, I think there's a lot of people that seem to have reached out, and I guess I hope that it's done some good for some people in some sort of way, but mostly I'm just so happy that they have something that is going to be out there for forever.
Right. And they've got a permanent history then for upcoming generations and so forth.
Yeah. And the thing about some of that is that we don't talk about it, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
So it's okay to talk about. And I was afraid of bringing back those feelings for that group of people, but also, you know, if a person hears it and it helps them, that's pretty good. But yeah, past that, just the whole drive of it is that song needed to get to those people. I truly believe that. So
in some ways, I'm guessing you probably had two things that were tough to write: A, the song, and then B, to the family, and in asking, you know, is this okay?
Mm-hmm.
What would you like, and so forth.
Yeah, and I can't thank them enough. It's a bit of a ghost story.
Yeah,
but they were so kind. As that, I mean, we brainstormed and they made a statement on release day, and that the cover is actually pictures of Cody that they provided for us. So they're pretty great people and really happy to.
Yeah. Now you said you were in school, sat next to him a few times maybe, but didn't know him much beyond that.
No, I didn't.
Did you
know him
graduate
well.
the same year?
He was about a year. I think he was a year older than I was.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And where'd you grow up?
Sheridan, Wyoming.
Yeah, so small town.
Yep, small town.
Yeah, and once something like that hits a town that size, everybody becomes aware of it. And did you get that sense at that age? Oh, this is horrible. And you know it, because you said it kind of gnawed at you, obviously, and it's been in the back of the mind for a long, long time. So what do you think was the final thing that just made you say, got to do it?
To be honest, I really kind of didn't want to. And even when the song was done, I really went back and forth as to whether I'd even share it with anyone. So it had a mind of its own. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah. So what was the cause of the suicide?
So Cody, you know, I think he was troubled, and you know the things that his family and friends had told me. He ended up stepping in front of a train. I think it was night, you know, some evening.
Did you see inside any signs prior to that or anything from what little you knew about him?
You know, me personally, he was an athletic, popular, fun person. You know, he was like a tough guy, you know, I'm sure. So if he did have his troubles, that's my perception. I mean, maybe they talked about it, or if he had a few or something like that, maybe he would talk about it. I'm sure the people that know him really well could tell you way more than I could, but
that typical, not the person you expect.
I would say that's probably right.
Yeah. You know, you talk about being athletic, popular, and so forth. And especially in small towns, that can get, you know, even popularized more, that, you know, somebody is of that stature. And I think that's one of the things I love about the song. I mean, for a love of a song that is difficult to listen to, is the line about, you know, 6 foot, but 30 foot tall, standing in front of that locomotive. Yeah. What, did you talk to other people before writing this about what you were doing?
I didn't.
To get images or?
No. And a part of me wondered or thought maybe he was on a trestle, you know, high.
Right.
But, you know, trestle's not a very good word to rhyme or put in a, you know. Yeah. But I, you know, it's funny you say that. I really hadn't thought about that angle. Yeah, that's interesting.
This the deepest song you've ever written?
Yeah, you know, and I would say it's, musically speaking, it may be one of the best. It is the best thing I've ever done. Not because you write a song about beer or whatever, sure, or maybe just heartbreak. But this I feel like was more so just because it wasn't in any way, shape, or form. Didn't come from me and wasn't for me.
Right.
Just
a tribute in many ways, though.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What have other people been thinking about it besides family and so forth?
Well, you know, I have a really good friend. He's in the Army, and he joined the Army when we were both 20, and he's a pilot by now. But he did a lot of tours over in the Middle East, and he reached out, and of course, we talk to one another, it's usually we give one another a really hard time, you know. And he said, usually I would trim you back and give you a hard time about this. He said, but actually that song, I just want to let you know, like, good job. He said it really hits home because we've had over half of the unit that I went to on my first tour has taken their own lives. It really cuts deep and hits home.
Incredible.
And
wow.
You know, and then of course I was like, yeah, you're still you're a piece of work. And he said the same thing, you know, but
got back to normal.
Yeah, that was a pretty big thing to hear from someone I would say would shoot me straight.
Mm-hmm. How long do you think it'll take for you to grasp everything about this? You know, you've written it, you've gotten response from the family, other people, friends, and so forth. When will it hit you that this was monumental?
I mean, it's hard for me to say anything monumental about anything I might have done.
Well, you're a humble man.
But, you know, I would say I just can't thank the friends and family enough that they reached out and told me their stories. Because it really, I had periods of guilt where I felt so terrible for having dug up these emotions for them, you know, but I just can't thank them enough for talking with me. So I already feel the gravity there. You know, it makes me feel good, and I hope it's good. If there are things that have made things worse, I feel awful about that, you know. But it's been a pretty moving experience.
Did it bring closure for you?
Yeah, it has, because, you know, the folks that were involved reached out and told me their stories and their perspectives on it. I think, you know, the song itself, I felt pretty haunted throughout the process, but the moment I think that really, Rick Stoops played the fiddle on this, and we had sent the song to him and didn't really give him any guidelines. We just see what he says or see what he does. And he sent the song back to Mark, finished, and Mark sent it on to Ashley and I, and we hit play, and man, I got choked up because I just was like, I can't believe it's this good. I mean, or that something I could do could be this good. He took it to this place. It's just so what this song deserves. So Mark's like, would you change anything? And I was like, no. And don't tell him he did. And he didn't know. He said, either, yeah. I said, do you like it? He said, very much. We're not going to change anything about what Rick did. So he did an amazing job and brought a lot of it to life, I think, for me.
Is this going to be part of the album, or is this just a single?
So this one is a single, you know, basically just for Cody and his family there. But there is an electric version coming up on the album that we're doing. So.
Okay. When can we expect the next album?
Oh, we're working on it and trying to get through gigs and everything we got going on. So I would expect probably maybe late summer or fall.
Excellent. And what we can expect out of the album then, besides this song?
Sure. The album is really, I told Ashley, it's pretty irreverent, in my opinion. There's some heavy songs on it. There's some like goofy songs. There's some I would term a little poppy. Just kind of really, the last album that I did, or EP, was it's basically just a live tracked album of a live band, you know, where this time we've really dug in. There are multiple instruments that I probably wouldn't even play live with, you know, and people I haven't met playing them or singing, and the guitar tracking took pretty much all spring. I mean, we took a long time doing guitars, and we're doing the same with vocals, just every little bit, trying to do better than last time, right?
Anybody besides yourself on the vocals?
Well, I can't say yet because they haven't done it yet for sure. So,
but you have someone in mind, obviously.
Yeah, and some different people on some of the instruments, like maybe steel guitar and that. So
okay, how are things looking for the summer performances and so forth?
Busy, real busy.
Good for you.
So once we get going here, we'll be steady, and we're headed to Wisconsin and couple other places. We had one in the cities that fell through, but around this area, and then maybe out west, even to Wyoming, Utah, Montana, maybe Arizona.
So do you get to play back home?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
do?
There's a couple of places there's one place that we've been to a couple of times. I don't know if it's going to work out this year to get back there. So, but yeah, it's fun to get out there, and it's nice to see. You selfish reasons, you go and get a little fishing in. You spread things out a little bit.
What do you fish for?
Oh, mostly I do fly fishing out there.
Oh, love to fly fish.
Yep.
Yeah. Trout.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good
Lots
for
of
you. In
rainbows
creeks?
and cutties, and yeah, back home.
Best way to do it. There's a certain romance to that, isn't there?
Yeah, I think I bring Ashley with me, and she tells me it's more crashing through the bushes than catching fish, because you're just walking a long ways, and
yeah, very true.
I love it though.
Yeah,
It's
that's
nice.
a good thing. And when it comes to the influences that you had, what was it growing up that got you into this?
Well, my mom played guitar, still plays guitar, and which she gave it to me now, but her acoustic guitar, the first couple times they left me alone just at home, they'd get to the end of the driveway, and I was pulling that guitar out from under the bed, just opening that case, just looking at it, and my sister had a little student guitar. I was stealing it all the time until finally I was like, Mom, Dad, I want to play guitar, electric guitar. And they said, yeah, we can get you an acoustic guitar. And I said,
They weren't going to spring for the electric, though.
Electric guitar. So I mowed some lawns and saved up about $50 and got my first one at the pawn shop. Couldn't afford the amp yet.
Right.
Which Mom and Dad were fine with that. So
they didn't have to worry about all that loudness that would eventually
yeah,
come
but
out.
eventually that came.
Yeah. Did you are you self-taught?
So I, started reading chord books.
Okay.
Got my fill of that, and then,
But this is before like Guitar Hero and so forth.
Yeah. No. So, and then I got a guitar teacher, and he was kind of a local hero, actually. His name's Toby Knapp, but he was like, he's a death metal, amazing savant guitar player. And so this is what I'm seeing. The first time I went there for his lessons, I thought it'd be cool to see a Fender Stratocaster someday. I get there and he had like 10. I get to play one during my lessons. And so that affected my musical preferences and stuff. But I really learned a lot.
And did it
learning from him
affect your guitar purchases from there on out too?
Yeah. I'm kind of known for guitars.
How many do you have?
I don't know off the top of my head. It's really not that ridiculously many. It's probably like 13 or 14, something like that.
Fair.
It's not an ungodly amount.
No, I
love amps just as much as guitars.
Okay.
So
because I think the most that I've asked a guitarist that I've heard from on this show was 17.
Okay, so you're telling me I'm a little high in the range.
Yeah, so actually he's
it's early.
He's
in
still got
life
room though.
still.
Oh, he's doing the cut across the throat.
I
Not
worked
gonna
in
get any more
guitar
of those.
stores for a lot of years. That's what I did for work when I met my wife, actually, and so you develop a taste for them, and you happen to run into things, and it grows.
All right, and so are there other instruments you play?
It's mainly guitar. I mean, I can play bass, and I'd love to be able to play drums because I wanted to play drums first, and my folks were like, "No way." And so I mean,
lesser of two evils.
Yeah, and we've got a drum set at the house, and I'll sit down. I just can't get coordinated enough. And once you have one that you're pretty good, I mean, I'm already trying to be a good singer, be good at guitar, and write songs and all of that. It's just you can't devote enough time to get anything where it ought to be good, as far as I can tell.
Oh, well, you do good stuff, and it's greatly appreciated, and so thankful that you're in the area and get around within the area, too, to be playing. And thank you for telling us a story and providing us with a very moving song in Train and the story behind it. And again, I think it's a very classy way to pay a tribute to somebody, but you did it just out of the sheer, I need to write this, and not looking for glory of it.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I hope it does good things for the people that hear it.
Yeah.
And I'm really thankful to the family and friends.
No
of the
doubt.
people involved.
All right. Well, Collin, this is your second time on the show. So instead of getting when you're not part of the entertainment business, what do you like to be entertained by and the extra hobbies and so forth, we have different things now. So what is your word? What is the word that you focus on?
The word I focus on, well, it depends on the day, but right away out of the gate, we're always talking about the mission.
Really?
Yes, the mission. And the mission is our music.
Right.
Played the way we want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Getting itself across to our audience and making a connection. That's the mission.
And not influenced by somebody who's going to take it and rip it apart completely and make it a poppy thing to be out there for the masses.
Well, I mean, it's open to interpretation, but I'm a very hard-headed individual, so it's hard for me to sometimes change the mission much from what direction it's heading. You can ask my bandmates.
And Mark Dahm, I'm assuming, too.
Yeah, you can ask him.
Because he and Matt D have a very interesting love-hate relationship when it comes to recording and producing and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So I know where that can all come from.
Well,
it's part of being an artist.
Yeah, I think for me and Mark have a love relationship. We're having a good time.
Well, good
there.
for you.
We're getting creative, and we're at the point where we trust one another to where he'll follow through on, okay, you do it the way you want to do it, and then let's hear what is it at face value, and and I trust him enough where he might say, try this, and I go, that? Are you sure? And we just give and take that way.
Yeah.
We're running around having so much fun and sipping on whiskey and listening to it and praising ourselves for geniuses, or if things aren't going well, crying the blues about how horrible we are.
I have taken some whiskey to that studio before.
Yeah.
So I hope you enjoyed the drinks.
Same.
Yeah. Well, you brought some here last time.
Yeah,
so,
I did. I hope you liked it.
I did. Yeah, and it came at a very crucial time because it was a time that Costco was not carrying any Jack Daniels.
Mm-hmm. And that's your drink. I know that.
And I really thought that I was, it might be the end, but you came through with a bullet.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Dave, I have gotten lucky here the last couple of years. I'm kind of starting to think I'm the whiskey tasting event guy. I did bourbon and bacon now the second year in a row. That's a great event.
That is fun. I didn't get to it this year, but
and I got out to work with Eldon out there and did his whiskey tasting too as a result of that. And I'm kind of like, man, I'm really digging into this as a hobby, and B, I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
I'd be happy if that's my title.
I finally made it to the Holy Land, Lynchburg, Tennessee, last October. Yeah. And a great tour. And, you get to sample 5 different blends of Jack Daniels, and you only get the little sample because it's a dry county.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the interesting part is you can't buy the Jack Daniels, but you can buy a commemorative bottle of Jack Daniels in the gift shop. What you do beyond that county line, you're good with on your own.
Did you get to taste the spendy stuff?
Not the big one that I really wanted. See, because I had been told that Sinatra Select is the creme de creme of it. But I'd also been told that was like $1,100 a shot in Las Vegas. But we get out and we get into the commemorative bottling area where you can buy that commemorative bottle, and it's $170. And I tell my love, I said, look, it's only $170.
Do it.
It's a steal. And she said, no.
No?
Yeah.
I like a good $100 bottle. That's on the upper end.
That is on the upper end.
Sometimes you're disappointed. But yeah, I'm always falling for marketing or, what's this one? Oh, it looks good. And then boy, I don't know about that.
Well, we typically always have several bottles of Old Number 7 here, and usually a single barrel and also a gentleman jack.
Gentleman, I guess. Yeah. Yep, figured.
Yeah, got to have it. All right. Hey, got to have you back again sometime soon, too.
Yeah, let's
appreciate
have
it. Exactly the reason. I like it when people are thinking the same way I am. All right. Collin Donley, appreciate your time.
Thanks, Dave.
And we'll be back to wrap up the Dave Holly Hour in just a moment.
My friend Cody was a good kid. Had his dark side, most of us did, but he was darker than most. He got low. They don't print suicides in the papers. In a town this size, we're all close neighbors, and the word travels fast. And it's someone you know. Time moves on after high school, and I got gone just like I do. Try to never look back. I hit the road fast like a runaway train on a midnight track. I wasn't there when Cody quit breathing. The glare of the headlights on a midnight ride bring me back to the night he lost his life. And I often wonder, did I cross his mind? He was 6 foot tall, he was 30 foot high. When he stepped between the tracks that night, he didn't budge 1 inch off that rail. And the only sound on the end of that line, the last song of the night that night, that lonesome refrain on the night that he stepped out in front of a train. Shore in with a steady hand waiting. Cody did make one call to the one he heard. Most of all, she were a hometown queen. She was in between, just a quiet girl loving the boy down the street. And to this day they say she held her head in her hands and listened to that train. And I often wonder why she took that call. But he was 6 foot tall, he was 30 foot high. When he stepped between the tracks that night, he didn't budge 1 inch off that rail. She'll never know just why she took that call. After the breakup, they just had that fall. He put that receiver down and stepped out in the pale. And the only sound on the end of that line, the last song of the night that night, that lonesome refrain on the night that he stepped out in front of the train.
That was the song Train by Collin Donley. Thank you to him for being a guest again. Also, thank you to Jon Runyan and Randy Faustino from Bamboo Panel Studios. Thank you, of course, always the biggest one, to you for listening, downloading, sharing, and following. Don't forget to follow Dave Holly Hour on Facebook and Instagram if you're not one of those. Now, for all 227 episodes, go online, davehollyhour.com. While you're on the site, use the search function to look up your favorite artists, see if they've been on the show before. You can go back and listen to any one of those previous episodes at any time. As the Sioux Falls Arts Council says, together we art. As Arts South Dakota says, home is where the art is. As I say, put some art in your heart. Remember, I'm Dave Holly, and for me, every day is a Holly Day.
The Dave Holly Hour has been brought to you by TJS Ceramic Studio, Serendipity Studio Gallery and Gifts, Chasers Food and Spirits, XL Chiropractic, Quality Nails, Jesse Moffitt Entertainment, and the Sioux Falls Arts Council. If you would like to contribute to the continued success of this podcast, simply buy Dave a cup of coffee. Go to davehollyhour.com and click on the coffee cup icon. Don't forget to stay up to date on the show by following on Instagram and Facebook. The Dave Holly Hour is produced in the Dipsy Doodle Studios by Big D Entertainment.
Thanks for listening.